Alrighty, so with the release of LR, Trunks, and Vegeta with their EZA, what I wanted to do today is go over the sort of EZA LR rankings and put them into a tier list. Now, unfortunately, my top 10 LRs video is not aging very well. A lot of things changed pretty quickly in terms of difficult fights and EZAs and such, and just the way that the game is sort of shaping out. I think if I were to do that video over, maybe we'll do it at the end of GDC. A lot of placements would be different, right? Severely underrated Omega, underrated Rose just a little bit, overrated the physical fours. These things happen, right? It's just, I made the video early. You guys get the YouTube hustle. That's just kind of what happened. So what I wanted to do in this video, rather than doing a top 10, is sort of just put some of these marquee LR EZAs and put them into separate tiers. Now, one thing to get out of the way, you guys can see the order is going to be Z tier, which is best of the best, limited time buffs, which are characters that feel like they're Z tier, but won't be there for very long. Obviously, you guys know those are the 4 characters at the bottom, or the 5 at the bottom, excuse me. Those 5 characters are really good right now, but the second those buffs wear off, they are back to being basically unrunnable in modern content. So I'm going to put them in a separate tier because they're really good right now. But again, it's either put them off the list and people ask where they are, or I just put them in their own little tier and don't put them at the bottom. So that is what we are going to be doing in this video. And then last but not least, this is all just from my opinion and my experience playing the game. Thankfully, a lot of these characters are old, so I'm able to experience them rainbowed, if not rainbowed at like 89–90%, basically for the entirety of the list. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started. And the first thing we'll do is just nail out this limited times buff here. Whoops, wrong monitor. Should probably lock that. Limited time buffs tier, right? Let's just get all of these characters in here and just kind of get this out of the way. So Rose works very well with the Rose and Zamasu. This character works well with STR Goku Black and STR Goku and Vegeta, excuse me, all over the place. It's early. Then we have STR Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, AGL Super Saiyan 4 Goku, and then LAGL Baby. Now, again, all of these characters work very well on their specific teams. This guy on the physical Omega team is a dog. I really like his offensive and defensive capabilities, as well as the giant form that he brings to the table. I think it works out pretty well for the grand scheme of things. And then we also have Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta and Super Saiyan 4 Goku, who slide in very nicely on the GT Heroes team. Now, depending on whether or not you want to run these guys is going to be based on how much you like the Super EZAs that just dropped for Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta earlier this week. And then when it comes to the Future Saga characters, we talked about them, you know where they slide. I think of this bunch, or of this batch, in terms of like ones I like to use the most, it probably goes Baby, then Super Saiyan 4 Goku, then it would probably be Rose. Yeah, it would probably look something like this. Tech Vegito Blue is probably the most fun of the bunch in terms of animations and like quality of stuff like that. But I think that just Baby is filling a need on a team that needs it the most. And it'll be interesting to see where they pivot outside of GDC in terms of filling that spot on the Omega team. I'm sure they have a way to do it because that Omega team is very good. So that is going to be the first thing that we need to get out of the way. So this is going to be the limited times buff tier. They feel a lot better than they really should be, and that is intentional from the devs, which is really nice for major celebrations like this because it just gives you some more fun characters to use that a lot of players probably have dupes in at this point because of just how old they are. So limited times buffs tier, easy enough to get through. Let's go ahead and move on to the A tier. So starting off in the A tier, this is going to be characters who are just on the cusp of greatness, right? Like they just are a bit old at this point and they're still good, but I don't know how like much I'm going to be running them. And the first character that I'm going to mention in this A tier is STR Vegito. Now, the ability to have a scouter, very clutch, right? The damage reduction ability that they have in base form, the additional defensive mechanics that they got in terms of when they got into Super Vegito. Again, the scouter, the ability to counter, very nice. But unfortunately for this Vegito, we have seen in the last year or so with the release of Tech Vegito, is just like there's just a Super Vegito doing counters that is just worlds above this character, and content has really made it so where their base form is just not enough anymore. But their ability to stack attack and defense right off the bat, very nice. Like a nice filler character if you don't have like a Majin Buu Saga leader. These guys do find themselves creeping up on some banners. And, you know, most of the time you're going to pull them and not be happy about it. But like if you're a newer player, I think it's a decent LR. But again, I wouldn't I'm not particularly fond of running this character unless I absolutely have to. So I think A is fair enough for them, right? Defensive tech with a scouter is always nice. They have an ability to heal, which is really, can really help you in a run at certain points. But again, I don't really see myself running this character very often. Good enough to put them in the A tier. I'll put them there. And so that is where their buddy Buhan is going to be joining them. But Buhan is very, very good, right? Like, let's Buhan is definitely better between the two, just based on the teams that you're going to be running him on. Well, like the Glorio team, especially his ability to stack, the link set that he provides in terms of having stuff like big bad bosses and all the different Majin link set links that he could potentially need, just works out very well in terms of like the overall composition of the team, if you will, right? The ability to seal if the boss isn't immune to sealing never hurts to have, right? His pairing with somebody like Tech Buhan, with Int Buhan, especially like that rotation of Tech and Int Buhan and Tech Buhan, or Physical Buhan and Tech Buhan, or Physical Buhan and Int Buhan, right? All just have a lot of different capabilities, and I think that he just kind of works out pretty well. I like the way that he can dodge a lot of stuff, and again, being able to continue to stack and build up. You can have runs where you go real deep with Buhan, and he could look very, very impressive. But I'm not going to be able to put him much higher. I just think he is a tad old at this point. So, that's really the only reason. I think he's still pretty good, but I don't really think I'd be able to go much further than that at this point. So, do I want to put Angel Vegeta in S? Probably. Yeah, I just think he's a little bit more capable off the bat. Yeah, okay, so basically that rounds out the S tier, right? Unless I think of anybody else, and I'm just kind of looking at this, but this basically rounds out the S tier. So or the A tier. So let's move on to S. And the first character I'm going to put in S is this Angel Vegeta. He's very simple, big numbers, right? Holds it down for you. Very good in EZAs. It kind of works out pretty well on most of these teams. Is a decently modern EZA, but at the end of the day, he's just all right at this point. So I think he's pretty good. I would just put him a little bit above these guys because of what he's able to start out and do. Right? Like, this guy's able to rip up like a 50 million attack stat, like right off the bat, or 30 million, and get really high up in terms of like what you're looking for. He has access to a unit super that is very easy to get. He has a decent active skill, and I just think that he works out pretty well in that tier. So that's basically why I have him here in S. Works out on a lot of teams that could use it. Other World Warriors, Majin Buu Saga, stuff like that. Vegeta family isn't really a team, but he's one of the better standalone characters on the Vegeta family team. So that is why we have him up here. Now, the next character I want to talk about on the S tier is going to be Tech Gogeta. Now, I think Tech Gogeta is a very good like filler character, but again, in terms of modern content, things are starting to get out of control in terms of power creep for modern content. It's tough, right? Like, a lot of these characters, like these four that you're looking at, just like can't take normals from some of these bosses. Like, you get them turn 1, you're dead, right? The year 10 LRs are like struggling in some of this new content. So if you are just looking at it from the lens of like the hardest fight in the game right now, really almost every character on this list so far is in a bad way. There's one character who, if he gets locked slot 1 in the Rose and Zamasu fight, guess who's not taking a hit? But, it's just a tough spot for a lot of these characters right away, just because, again, GDC saw a level of power creep that's like absolutely bananas, right? Like, we're talking characters consistently dropping like 60 million plus, right? Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta at like the rainbow level is just like opening the fight at like almost 70 million, right? Like, it's absolutely crazy how hard these characters are starting to hit now and how hard these bosses are hitting. So somebody like Tech Gogeta, I feel like their utility comes from their ability to have a scouter. And when you have that scouter and just the way he works in terms of some of these other fused fighters teams, I just think of these like 4 characters, he's the best one here. And that is why I think S is a decent placement for them, just because I would rather run them on a team than any 3 of these characters. Really, I think you could do this. I kind of like that a little bit better, honestly. Yeah, I do. So S tier, Super Saiyan Tech Gogeta, still a good character, but not what he used to be. Next up for the S tier, I have Full Power Frieza. I think Full Power Frieza is still a very good unit in the game. Just a bit of a tough spot, because if we look at like his ideal linking partners right now, it's not pretty for him, right? Like, if we go to Namek, like what teams I think he does fit the criteria for the Omega team, right? He is on Inhuman Deeds. Yeah, so he is on the Omega team, but this is bad. Like, this is really bad, right? So like, what links would he share with Omega Shenron? Because he would get big bad bosses in Legendary Power, which is nice, but like Omega doesn't have Prodigy, Strongest Planet in Space, Universe's Most Malevolent. Nightmare, yeah, he doesn't have Nightmare either. So like 3 links with Omega, basically, right? Big bad bosses, Fierce Battle, Legendary Power. Like, he's okay in there, but again, it's like 50% damage reduction, and guard is decent, and then you also have the Omega support, so his damage reduction does get a bit higher, and then the damage reduction continues to go up, so like he could be good with the Omega support, but like I just don't think he is enough at this point, but he could be all right, like against fights with like a named fight against Goku, right? Guaranteed crits, buffs against superclass. Right now there are a lot of superclass fights in the game. That could be pretty helpful, and I think that just, again, having access to that Omega support is just going to make this character a lot better, and I think he can look decently impressive, right? There's easy avenues for him to get high enough damage reduction with guard for that first turn. Losing the guard sucks after that, but I think, again, it's so you're able to build him up. Again, he is a stacking character. I think he actually ends up working out pretty well, so S tier for this Frieza. Don't really hate that. I think I wouldn't be willing to put him in Z. I think that's a bit of a stretch, even though he does have that Omega support, but I don't think that's enough to make him a Z tier at this point. So let's go ahead and put Frieza in the S tier. I like that placement. Let's move on to Grade 8 Vegeta, who at this point, I'm going to go S, but he would be like the definition of like an S plus character, right? You know what we could do? Here's what we'll do. We'll make an S plus tier, and I'm gonna put him up here. Yeah. So we're gonna put the limited buffs / so these characters would not be here, if not. But I think that this is an S plus easy right here. Very good slot 1 with damage reduction and whatnot. I believe he is on Inhuman Deeds as well, if I'm not mistaken. So he's a leader for it, isn't he? Yeah. So he would also fit under the Omega team and have access to that damage reduction on top of everything that he's able to do in slot 1. So this character can be very tanky. If you want to put him on the Giant 8 power team, he's going to have access to that Super Saiyan 4 Goku damage reduction. Very nice, right? But the issue is if you're running like those Super Saiyan 4 characters, you probably would rather have 2 Super Saiyan 4 Gogetas than 2 Super Saiyan 4 Gokus. So Vegeta, unfortunately, is not on GT Heroes, so you don't get access to that at all. But that is okay. That's just kind of how these things go. So I think Vegeta is definitely like, with that slot 1, turn 1 capability that he potentially can have, especially on the Omega team, I think he could be a decent slot 1 for you. But again, I just don't think offensively he's really living up to the standard of like characters like this, right? Characters like this, the utility of a character like this. So that is sort of where I feel about those EZAs right now, but let's just go ahead and move on. So next up, I have Goku and Hit. Now, God Goku and Hit. This is one where I feel like I haven't used this character enough, but I also think like for a reason. I don't think that they're like insane, right? Baseline 20% damage reduction. Being able to avoid an enemy hitting is nice, right? But like 30% damage reduction right here. And then in slot 2, they're going to have that extra. So what are we up to? 36 or 26, 46, 40%. Why can't I talk? 40%, 46% damage reduction. And then disabling enemies guard, like it's okay, right? Losing that 10% is huge. 46 and 36 is going to make a pretty big difference, believe it or not. And the chance to dodge is nice, and action break in slot 3 is good. But being relegated to slot 3 is like, it's just okay. I don't really think like the teams that they're on necessarily right now are great. Like Accelerated Battle is good, but they're not really making the top cut. Tournament of Power has just been power crept, unfortunately. No pun intended. Going Forces is just, there's so many different options on that team. Legendary Existence is a joke, and then Tournament Participants is decent, but the problem with that is just sort of the way that you're running this. It's like, I feel like there are better characters here. Like between Tien and Goku and Hit, I'm running Tien. AGL UI and Goku and Hit, I'm running AGL UI, right? Tech UI and Goku and Hit, we can talk, right? But I think I'd rather have Tech UI just for his domain, right? Goku and Frieza, I think, are a little bit better than Goku and Hit. And tournament to someone like Pycon is better, right? Cell is better. Kale and Caulifla are better. So it's tough for them to really find a footing in terms of like teams that you want to run them on, and the categories that they share or they have are just not great. And this is why Dokkan really should be sort of adapting the legend system, because you know what this does if these characters have like because if this was like a tag, like imagine this character if it was a reverse exchange, right? Because then we would have Universe 6 here, we'd have Universe 7, we'd have any category that like this hit is on. So if we just pull up this hit for an example, can I open them up from here? Pause. Yeah, I can. So if we go in for here with this hit, Universe 6, right, we'd have access to a lot more categories. U6, Target Goku, Super Bosses, right, Mission Execution, Rapid Growth. And then with any Tournament of Power Goku, you guys know how like a Tournament of Power Goku works, right? Pure Saiyans, Universe 7, what else do we have? Like Power Beyond Super Saiyan, like all of these different teams, Goku's family, it would really open up the floodgates for the amount of categories that these characters could have. And I think in turn, it would make them a lot better, because you guys can see, if we look at this passive, there's no category restrictions here, but within the passive, it doesn't really matter because the category restrictions are right here. A unit with 5 categories in 2025 is not good. Like 5 categories is horrible, right? Like if we just go, you know, I'm kind of on a tangent here. We'll move on in a moment. But if we, of course he's not on the page, but if we go to, where's our boy? Like, you know, we're talking about 5 categories. How many categories are these guys on? Like, okay, dude, right? So like, how many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 26 teams. So if you're on 26 teams and there's another character on this list that this tier list here that has 5, that's a big difference. So, you know, that's why I think they're S, still pretty good, but definitely not on the level of these guys with the buffs, and then it's certainly not NZ as well. So the next character I want to talk about is Namek Goku. Now, he is a GOAT in the Festival of Battles. You guys know he had his run. Very good in the Festival of Battles. Just has an ability to stack a very nice Super Saiyan Goku link set. Going to be very consistent for you. So that is sort of where I see him right now. Not too much to talk about other than he likes to stack. Does decent damage. Works well next to like the LR gods in the Festival of Battles. And I really feel like that's what he was designed for. You can just hold it down, take some normals in there. Super could be a different story, but overall, I think he works out pretty well. So this Namek Goku, S tier. Let's move on. Janemba, same thing. Works very well on his teams. Easy S tier. Has a giant form. Works out very nicely. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna move Wuhan up. But he works out well, right? I like the way that like this rotation here is pretty fun in terms of like the way you want to run it, right? Having big bad bosses, access to stuff like that. The rage mode, he doesn't have a giant form, it's the rage mode, but the rage mode still inherently has a very similar mechanic where supers are not going to be nearly as much of an issue when you have this guy around. His ability to dodge, especially defensively, still has some decent guard, stuff like that. But the problem is just in modern day power creep, he really has sort of aged out a bit. Just a lot of other options that are better at this point. Still think he's better than characters like Vegeta and Vegito down there, and which is pretty crazy considering like when some of these characters EZA'd, right? Like we look at 2 of these characters, Worldwide 2024, 10th Annie, 9th Annie, right? Like these guys were pretty recent, but again, I think I like Janemba a little bit better just for his defensive utility and the ability to work better with a lot of characters. He has access to some good teams. If you want to move him up or down, I think that's fine. But that's sort of where I have him right now. So last but not least, for the S plus tier, I'm going to throw Evolution Blue Vegeta in here. I still think he's aging very well, right? Has that amazing onset damage reduction and guard. Problem is now is 50% damage reduction and guard with his because that guard wears off, right? And his revival is just nowhere near as impactful. I like him in S. Yeah, I like him in S. But his revival is nowhere near as impactful as UI Goku's, because getting guard is nowhere near as clutch as getting a whole other turn of dodging, right? So that is sort of how I feel about this, and I think UI Goku would also go in the same tier up here. I would have him in S+, because again, I just think he is one of the better LR EZAs in the game right now. In the Goku Black and Zamasu fight, very clutch, right? If he ends up losing you the fight, it's more than likely he's going to revive, and then you just have to rely on the 77% chance to dodge that builds up with every dodge that you do. 2 turns of guaranteed dodging in any fight, really, except for the ones that disable it, is just a timeless mechanic that is going to have this character aging very well in any short-form content. The same way that we talk about Beast Gohan, right? The fights go back to, 3 to 4 turns, Beast Gohan is back. And that's sort of just where I'm feeling right now with these EZAs. So that rounds out this tier in specific. So the last 4 are all Z tier, right? We'll talk about these guys individually here, right? We do something like this. These tiers are not ranked, by the way. There's something I want to keep in mind for you here. So the way that I'm sort of seeing it, right? Right now, everything looks pretty good with all 4 of these EZAs. They all have their separate roles in the game, if you will. They all have their different tools, and it's going to work out pretty well for us. So, Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta. Let's just start with them. They have some of the best, like, tools in the game. The Year 7s together both have their 77% damage reduction, their guard for the first 7 turns, I believe it is, and then they have the ability to stack, and then when you transform, you get another additional turn of 77% damage reduction. You get Rainbow Orb changing, right? Gogeta can counter and gets damage reduction per Rainbow Orb. Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta get their dodge in the same thing, right? Like, and they both have their action breaks on their 18-key super attacks. So interrupting enemy actions is always going to be clutch for you. Then you have characters that, like, they work really well with, right? The Super Saiyan Gods work really well with the new Blue Goku and Vegeta. The Super Saiyan 4s work really well with AGL Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. They are like their best linking partner alongside Super Saiyan 4 Goku, the 10-year anniversary LR. So you have this combination of things that just end up working out really well for you in terms of rotations with some of the best characters in the game, and I just kind of like the way that they are operating. So right now, I'm just feeling it with them. Zamasu, I think, is the only one here where you could be like, maybe they're not Z, but I'm going to like buff them up a little bit because they're a GDC EZA. Zamasu, orb changing, damage reduction, the way he works in the Super Bosses team next to Goku Black and Zamasu, the exchange character. Just a must run on that setup right now. They are Fused Fighters, they're on Future Saga. They just have access to a lot of different things, right? They have their damage reduction, their orb changing, easy access to ki, their ability to nullify supers, though rare, you still have it. I just think that they work out very well. And then last but not least, we have Trunks and Vegeta, who make every character in the game a stacking character. So for Festival of Battles, this is going to be quite the cakewalk for them. I'm about to take them in there after this video. We're going to do a guide for Festival of Battles, so look forward to that video later today if I can get around to it. But just the ability that they have offensively, defensively, the support they're giving to everybody helps off-rotation units are able to stack a little bit better now. So I'm very interested to see how that works in the Festival of Battles myself, but I think they're easily a Z tier EZA right now. So this is the tier list. Ultimately, let me know down below what you guys think. If there are any honorable mentions that I potentially could have missed on here, sort of looking around, I guess like you could put the Broly trio as like an honorable mention. I think the same thing could go for Turles. Do I like Turles better than STR Vegito? Probably not. Kaioken Goku, I guess, would be up here as well. Like he'd be A tier like that. Just sort of looking at who else I could toss in here, like the A tier / honorable mention, right? I guess you could like go to the honorable mention section, right? Like we can just make this right here or something. We could do that. Who else? Like you could go down here. I think you're pretty good. Like you would basically be B tier. No, I'm not seeing anything else. You're like a super easy A, so you could go down here, right? Like you're okay, I guess. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. Let me know down below what you guys think of this. What would you do differently? Who would you move up? Who would you move down? All that fun stuff in the comment section below. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this one and hope it was the tier list makes it a little bit friendlier for you guys. And hopefully this one doesn't age out in an hour like top 10 LRs did. So thank you guys for watching. I always appreciate your time. As always, have a good one.